Awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of time to come in. We are
Yes.
live in a couple of places. Let me just share it. Oh, it looks like LinkedIn is not showing. Mhm. Awesome. We're live on LinkedIn. Okay. They've changed the settings a little bit. All right. Let us know as you guys are entering the room if you can see us, if you can hear us. I see a couple of people are here. Please type in the chat that you are able to hear us. Let us know where you're chiming in from if you can. We will give just a couple more minutes. I want to make sure everybody's here. Oh, awesome. All good. Okay, good. We're rocking and rolling. Perfect, 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 perfect. Okay, cool. So I'm going to just let everybody know on LinkedIn that we're here, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Post. All right, perfect. Okay, welcome everybody. Okay, hey. Okay, so we have, oh, I've never heard of Duluth, Minnesota. Okay, welcome. I've heard of Duluth, Georgia, but it's spelled a little bit differently. Miami, Florida. Welcome from Miami. Okay, awesome. Well, we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to our presentation. This is from the National Association of Cannabis Accounting and Tax Professionals. The association is a professional trade association for any professionals who are serious about the cannabis industry and want to stay up to speed with what's going on, learning from industry experts from across the country. So today's presentation is Rising High, and we're going to talk about effective business strategies for aspiring cannabis leaders. So even if you're not an accountant or a tax professional, if you are in the cannabis industry, you will need to understand how to become a leader. Leadership is across the board, no matter what you're doing. If you're in business, if you're an employee, if you're a boss, if you're a manager, leadership is very, very important. I'm learning that as I'm hiring new people. Okay, so we have Davina today. Davina, sorry, can you pronounce your last name for me?
Yeah, it's Kaonohi.
Kanohi. Is that Hawaiian?
Yeah, my dad's from Maui. So yeah, I spent a lot of
Oh,
time growing up there also.
okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. So Davina has over 20 years of experience in e-commerce and tech ventures. She is rooted in an indigenous mindset, and she's an advocate of wellness and clean products. She has founded and she's the CEO of Element Apothec. From her entrepreneurial journey, beginning as a 10-year-old seller in Hana, is that a city in California? In
In Hawaii.
Hawaii?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. To her aerospace contributions as Jet Propulsion Labs, her ascent into e-commerce and tech, and her role as a three-time founder, Davina epitomizes unwavering determination and innovation. So she's passionately committed to driving positive change, and her pathway has guided the spirit of Aloha, inspiring her to challenge norms and foster transformation in the world. All right. If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and what landed you here in the cannabis industry from your aerospace background and all the all the other startups that you've done?
Yeah, so my history with cannabis and how I got here is really personal, which I think a lot of people in the industry could share a similar story. And throughout my life, it's weaved a really important and critical parts of it. So my dad was a Vietnam vet, and he had severe PTSD. He served a lot of time in Vietnam, way more than he probably should have. But he was a genius. He had a photographic memory and could remember the landscape and topography. So he was quite an asset there. Anyways, that exposure to what he got and everything he went through caused him a lot of health issues and, as I mentioned, PTSD. So I grew up with cannabis around me. I had plants around us when we were young. I just knew that cannabis was something that helped him. And as I got older, I'd spend weekends with my dad and often worried about what would happen to him because there was all the programs of DARE at school and knowing that my uncle had got arrested for growing cannabis. And so I always understood, though, that without the plant he really wouldn't be able to live. We saw what would happen to him. He had a wooden stash box on his coffee table, and the first thing I would do when we would go visit him when I was young, whether it was when he was still here in California or when he moved back to Hawaii, was open his stash box. And if it was empty, I was like, Dad, when are you getting your pakalolo, which is what they would call it in Hawaiian. And I was like, okay, just making sure that he got it, because the weekends he didn't were really a hard experience. So that kind of set the tone for me. And, when I was in college, I consumed and realized how it helped me with stress and studying. So then eventually moving into my career, I did work at JPI. I always wanted to be an astronaut, but I realized that it wasn't as exciting as I had dreamed. Since I was 5 was my dream. But throughout my life, I did always start these businesses like selling flower lays. I was always making something, making business cards for something. So I kind of went into business. I was like, maybe I like business. Ended up working in HR and operations and business strategy, and really liked it for some really fun e-commerce companies. Through that was always interesting because I always hid my cannabis use, especially being in the position that I was in. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want people to think there was, any reason to doubt my skills. I was very aggressive in terms of what I wanted to accomplish in my career, and I didn't want that to impact it. So nobody knew I was truly a closet smoker at the time. Very few friends even knew that I did. And then eventually was like, I think I could start my own business as I had my son, and thought I could use all of this experience to start my own. And actually some of the early consulting jobs I got was one with a cannabis grow company. They had cabinets that people could grow in their homes when it was legal here in California to grow 6 plants at home, and worked for a company that was doing cannabis social network. I took on other projects, but I really found an interest in this space, knowing how it helped people, but also knowing where the industry was going from a business and growth perspective as well.
So can you tell us a little bit about your current business?
Mhm. Yeah, so currently
Uh,
I'm the CEO and co-founder of Element Apothec. And Element Apothec is a wellness brand really focused on bringing clean, safe, and effective solutions to people to help them thrive in their life. And we actually started because my great aunt was really sick, diagnosed with multiple medical conditions, autoimmune diseases, and was really struggling. And she turned to alternative plant-based remedies, including cannabis, to help her, because she just didn't know what else to do. Her prognosis wasn't good. And so, what other solutions did she have? And through that, she discovered mixing these incredible ingredients together helped her. It helped her sleep. It helped with her discomfort. It helped with the stress. It helped with the inflammation. And little by little, her body was healing. She changed her diet. She was, getting out, and people took notice of it and wanted them to make her something, wanted her to make them something that could be helpful also. So that's kind of the base of how we started. But then she turned over the business to me. She had created 43 custom formulations at that point, helping a lot of people, and turned it over to me. Basically, her dream was to take her products from the kitchen to the world. So that's what we're committed to. But I also knew in the industry there was lack of education, there's lack of medical oversight, and starting to bridge that gap between traditional medicine and plant-based medicine. So I brought on my co-founder, who's an integrative pharmacist. We formed a whole medical advisory board around our products. with the commitment that education would lead in everything that we would do, and a commitment that we, would look at things from a science mind, thinking, what ingredients, ratios, perspectives could really work to help people be effective using the base of the formulations that she had already started.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's nice to get that level of education from people who have been using it for so many years. And I feel like you have like a 10-year runway. Like, the education is so needed in this country. There's so many people who can benefit from this plant, and then we have this defragmented market where every single state has different brands, different products, different strains. And so there's no product loyalty, there's no brand loyalty. It's hard to, you walk in and you could be reading Chinese for all, there's no you don't know what you're getting, and it's really hard. No matter how detailed the label is, it's hard to know which ones to pick up and which one's going to actually help you. And I feel like operators, growers I've met, bud tenders, they don't have that level of education they really need to help the clients who are buying these products. So is that something like you're spearheading, like helping to provide education across the industry?
Yeah, it's something that we're really passionate about. We actually created a course called Cannabinoids for consumer health and well-being. And it's something that's really important to us. We were just at USC. I know Dr. Swathi was at Princeton several months ago, and having these real conversations, not just with practitioners, but with everybody who really wants to understand what are these ingredients, how do they help them, what's the endocannabinoid system, why does it even work, when people start to understand how it binds with our endocannabinoid receptors, whether it's THC or antagonistic like CBD. So really getting people to understand what it is, but then also talking about dosing. We do one-on-one consultations and helping people understand what it is that they might need, and not only just with cannabis, but other plant-based remedies as well, to look at alternative solutions for their health and well-being.
Amazing. Yeah, I can see you bringing that into like cultivators and dispensaries, across the country to help just with product knowledge.
Yeah.
Gerald is he made a comment, and he says that it's sad that your father had to hide using natural medicine to ease his ailments, and that's kind of the result of the unfair prohibition of cannabis. And that's what got him in this industry. And I feel like that's a sentiment that's felt across a lot of people in this industry.
Yeah, for sure it is.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so then let's talk a little bit about what were some of the initial challenges that you faced when entering the cannabis industry, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, like I said, I've been kind of in the industry off and on for a while. Actually, my sister was a grower, and created some early genetics. She actually made a strain for Snoop Dogg, which was pretty exciting back in the day. So yeah, so I helped her even early on. That was when Prop 64 just passed in California. And, so going through all of the, like, understanding the regulations and the legalities, and fighting for your space in the industry. And as things evolved and changed, helping her to make sure that, as a legacy grower and geneticist, that she also didn't get pushed out. But then going into Element Apothec, I mean, there's been a lot of challenges in terms of, regulations around advertising. We have to oftentimes be really cautious of the way that we describe how our products help and support people. And then,
Hmm.
interesting regulations around, like, where can hemp-based cannabis and cannabis, like, where can they all be on the same shelves? And there's just, every time you turn around, we had our PayPal account shut down. I had my personal PayPal account shut down because I had changed my email address, and they connected the two together, which I've still, like, 5 years later, have not been able to get it back. But there's
Oh
just lots of
no.
interesting things of, really making sure that you stay persistent. That, a no is okay. Well, let's find another solution. We set up our Shopify store, and there's certain things we couldn't use with Shopify logistics. So I think for anyone in the industry, there's always these alternative paths and solutions that we have to look to, and not let that deter us in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, which it does make it a little bit more difficult. That makes it a little bit more challenging. But I think it's the passion that really is what is driving everybody to push forward through those different challenges and obstacles that are faced.
Yeah, it's almost like we're spearheading a brand new, we are spearheading a brand new industry and just going through the growing pains of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so what are some of the key character, well, first I want to know how big is your team? How many I guess employees are you working with?
Yeah, so our core team is kind of small. There's 5 of us, I think, on the management
Okay.
team, and we do have a really incredible internship program we started. I really am passionate about internships because it's what helped me propel my career. So we have business interns and then also medical and scientific interns that are PharmD or medical students that we work with. It's an incredible program. And then we have some consultants we work with, and then we have 5 medical doctors, medical advisors as part of our medical scientific advisory board. And then we have 10 people on our business advisory board. And I think, it's getting creative when you're a small company, when you don't have a lot of revenue to spend on headcount and hiring. It's like, how do we get all of the things that we need to support the business, but we only have so much money to be able to pay people. And there are
Mhm.
amazing business advisors and mentors and people that really want to help you. And for me anyways, it was just asking. I mean, it was amazing the quality and the people that we have involved, but it also creates this, movement and championship for your business where they're able to talk about it and spread the news about the company as well, or advocate for it or get you in places and spaces you otherwise wouldn't. So our team's kind of small and tight, but we have this. I was just telling someone the other day, I'm like, we have this incredible like force around the business that's growing. We had our all hands meeting with everybody all on one screen, and it was like rows and rows of people. And I'm like, this is so amazing. All of this support that we have to really help ensure the success of the business.
Nice. Okay. And so what would you say are some of the key characteristics that you believe are essential for effective leadership in the cannabis market? Because even though they may not be your core team, interns, I mean, you still have to be an effective leader to manage interns and help them learn and grow and get what they need in order to, propel their career, as well as contractors. You need to be able to be an effective leader there. So what are some of those key characteristics that you've honed in on?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, it's interesting, right? Because you think of, what does leadership actually mean? And then in the cannabis space, what does leadership mean? Or any industries that are a little bit more, I do think it starts with a strong leader has to be passionate about what they're doing because you have people that are following you, that are trusting you to help them. Obviously, you have to have knowledge and expertise and, understanding relationships and strong communication skills. I mean, all things that are really important to get people to trust you. But you also have to be a trustworthy person. And I think that's something that sometimes gets lost a little bit along the way. And I've seen it in my corporate jobs where people lose trust in
Mhm.
the leader and it's hard to get people to follow them. And when you're working in an industry that's challenging, I think that's even more important to have that. But resilience and perseverance, I think, in this industry too, because things and adaptability, because things are going to change and what's here today may not be here tomorrow. And how do you have the foresight to, think about that and pivot and make adjustments, but also motivate your team to say and help them understand why they're making these changes. So it's, the traditional leadership skills that I think, that you need across the board to be a good leader. I actually just did a personality assessment, which was interesting. They
Yeah.
took 20,000 founders and ran them through this personality assessment. And it was like, do you have the skills to be an entrepreneurial person? And also, do you have leadership skills? And what are those, in terms of your ability to stand up and fight for the things that you need, the ability to stand up in front and get people to really follow you, and the ability
Mhm.
to kind of think outside the box to challenge the norm. And I think those are all things that are really important.
Yeah. No, a lot of people on this call listening in can attest to a lot of times motivating a person is not always money.
No.
People will turn down, more money for the opportunity to grow and develop and, become a leader and add value to the society and things like that. Do you guys do you guys have any creative ways that you motivate your staff?
I mean, I think so much of motivation is the trust also that you put in other people, and it's giving the opportunity for people to grow themselves, to be able to express themselves, to have a voice. And often some of the most, amazing things happen from the least likely person that might be outside.
Oh no, is it me or did we just lose Davina? Can you guys still hear me or did I lose you? Oh my goodness, let's see. Uh, did I lose everyone? Oh no, what should I do? Okay, Davina froze. Okay, well, let's see if we can get Davina back. I'll send her a message. Mm, let's see what's. Uh, okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. I just sent her a text message. I hope you guys are getting some value out of this. Let me know if you have any questions or any feedback, or if maybe you have some creative ideas that you've used to motivate and lead your team. Drop the comments in the comment box, and we will. Okay, so she just texted me. She's trying to come back in. Yeah, but if you have any ideas, highlight your comment during this discussion as well. And she's maybe hopefully her internet is going to cooperate with her to get back in here. Give her just a few minutes. Okay. Call today. Let's see. Mhm. All right, here she is.
I have no idea what happened.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes when we do these live things, the internet doesn't cooperate with us, but we got you back.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. So,
We were talking about motivating. So yeah, I was saying that I think, one thing that's really important is also people understanding what they're contributing to. So having clear goals for the company, but then also how do those translate individually?
mhm.
And one of the things that we've set up is it's called RACI. It's, roles, responsibilities, basically. Here's what our bigger goals are, and here's how each person contributes to that. And knowing how you're making a difference in the company and how you're contributing to me often is such a big motivator, because if you're not, you're kind of like out there just trying to figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But when you see your part in it all, it really can get people motivated and passionate about what they're trying to accomplish.
What do you call this process? Raise?
It's called RACI. So it's basically a chart, and it sets, who's responsible, who's accountable, who's in a support role, who's in a leadership role. So it goes through who's informed, consulted. So each of those initials, and I can share it with you so you can share it out to anybody that's interested. But
Mhm.
it basically takes your high level goals and then breaks those down into smaller goals or individual goals, and then assigns the different people on the team to those. And just having that clarity, I think, to me, is a big motivator, and then tying that to the overall performance and growth of the company. So an individual can say, wow, look at how I helped contribute to the growth of the company. To me, that's a big motivator. And like I said, it's just being open, honest communication, giving people opportunities to grow, to expand, like, what we're doing with our internship program, of just helping give new paths and new ways to get people involved in their growth and their own career trajectory also.
Mhm. That's great because I've actually done something kind of similar, but it's just kind of like establishing the company's core values and
Mhm.
having like, 5 or 6 core values. And then when you're having like all hands meetings or team meetings, kind of recognizing people who have exhibited these values, like, hey, Tiffany did so good with getting 1% better, and Anthony did so good with being fluid and flexible during the team meeting last, and kind of recognizing people so that they can realize how they're contributing to the overall, goals of the organization. So I
Yeah,
find that to really help a lot. Yeah.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And so let's talk a little bit about how you approach strategic planning and decision making in such a regulated industry like the cannabis industry. I know you talked earlier about difficulties with banking, with ad marketing, and all those types of things. So how do you approach it with all those barriers?
Yeah, but so much of it is, kind of going through the traditional still, strategic planning, and what our goals going to be for the year and how are we going to accomplish those. The difference is also having more alternative solutions and pathways, because and when I was early in this industry, I didn't really think about it like that. I was like, okay, I've done consulting. This is what you do. You come in, you put together your strategic plans, your goals, but then things change that are completely out of your control more often in this industry, or other more challenging industries. And so when you're thinking about some of these things, you do have to think about, what is the alternative solution. What if our bank accounts get closed? What if our logistics is, unable to meet the needs? What if this state, what if this, that you have to really start thinking about and doing more scenario planning. And I think that, not that you shouldn't do that in other industries, and it's important to think about that, but I feel like in a more regulated industry, it becomes critical to think about that scenario planning, and thinking about, what are the specific pathways we need for success, and where are the failure points that might happen that are out of our control, and then planning those scenarios around that. So when that happens, you're not stuck in the water, but you already have an idea of, okay, we kind of thought about this, we knew this might happen, and here's the path that we plan. Maybe it might be different, maybe some regulation might be different, maybe it might take longer to get licensing or open the dispensary or things like that. But having these backup plans, like one of the groups that we're working with, their dispensary in New Jersey, but they got delayed on getting their license, and so they started selling hemp products, right? So that was their backup plan, was, we still need to have revenue, we have this base that we're now paying on to have rent and people that we've hired. And so what's an alternative solution that we can do? And what's great is now they've built up a clientele, they've become a trusted resource, they also lead with a lot of education. So now moving into it, it wasn't like they were just sitting on this space for months and months. They actually were growing and continuing to build the business. And I think thinking about things like that for this industry specifically is really important.
These bigger players, like everybody just thinks that everybody started where they are. Like
Mhm.
even I don't know if anybody on the call has been to Planet 13 here in Las Vegas, which is supposed to be the largest dispensary in the world. But I live in Las Vegas. So when they first did their grand opening, I think they had just 2 tables of product and a cashier. Most of the entire place was empty. And so I walked in and I'm like, this is so underwhelming. this was the largest dispensary in the world. It's just a bunch of empty space with 2 tables of product. But now you walk in there and they have like 500 tables of product and 50 cashiers, and it looks like a Toys R Us for the, I mean, it's just huge. But they opened their doors because they needed to start paying back the build out costs and all those things and, grow into what they are today. And now they're adding a lounge. So yeah, everybody starts somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And I
really
actually I actually just left New York, and New York market kind of is just now opening up. And so a lot of the shops that I got to visit on Canal Street, down Broadway, in Manhattan, in Queens, in the Bronx, all of them, they opened just in April. But it's not their grand opening. They just want to start being able to pay rent.
mhm.
And so they're selling product until they can actually have that grand opening. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. And so Gerald is saying that knowing your role and having it clearly defined is a huge thing. Most business partners do not have defined. It makes such a difference. He says his partner, which is his brother, didn't understand his role and expectations of each other. So saying money doesn't motivate everyone, trust does, speaks volumes to him. And so him and his brother are splitting it 50-50, despite knowing, you know,
Mhm.
that's going to be a nightmare when they split up. But he'll never find a business-minded person like him that he can trust, which, yeah, um, that's important when you are trying to start and when you're trying to scale, which takes me to my next question. What strategies have you found most effective for managing and scaling operations, specifically in the wellness and cannabis industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it goes back again to really having clear goals and expectations of your organization, thinking ahead, where do we want to be? So even starting Element Apothec, I mean, it starts at the beginning, right? Of where do we want to go? I knew where we wanted to go. I knew education. I knew leading with science and practitioners was something that was important. And so building that into your plans and how do we get there? And it is those small steps because like you said, I think people go in and they're like, overnight, there's all these successes, but what they don't see, oftentimes there's 5 to 7, 8, 9 years behind what people see when they finally see it. And I've talked to a lot of founders in the consumer product goods space and the cannabis space, and they were doing small things all of these years. Maybe they had their product, they had connections, maybe they were growing in a very small scale, and then all of a sudden, people hear about them and so when you're thinking about scaling, it's being really mindful of how do we scale? And we need to scale in a methodical way. We don't want to blow all our money because we've all seen those companies also that, got $20 million or 50 million or $100 million and they're gone today. And that's because they scaled so aggressively. They hired too many people. They put money in things that they hadn't really thought about what the return on that investment was going to be. So scaling a lot is being really business minded in terms of what's our strategic goals? How are we going to get there? How are we realistically going to get there? And making sure not to try to be so aggressive. I mean, obviously, if you have investors coming in, they have certain goals and expectations, but not over promising, right? You'd rather say this is what we can do and over deliver and make sure that you're meeting those goals, make sure that you're hiring the right people. All of these things are really important as you think about scaling your business. And like I said, having scenario planning and making sure that you don't lose a step if something changes so you can kind of continue on that progress or being able to pivot, which, we've done a little bit of, okay, here's where things are going. Maybe we need to start thinking about other form factors. We need to start thinking about other ways we can inform and educate people what types of opportunities are going to give us the best return for our marketing investment. So all of those decisions lead to being able to successfully scale and grow your business and in a way where you're not all of a sudden stuck without money and without the people that you need to get you there.
Right. And also, I guess I feel like part of scaling is building some type of brand loyalty, brand identity. Can you give any insights on how to build a strong brand identity in the cannabis industry?
Yeah, I mean, scaling definitely when you're a consumer company does involve the consumer growth. It involves, making sure that you're spending money in the places that are going to get you new people, but then how do you maintain the people that you currently have? And brand loyalty is really important. And for us specifically, it is the additional things. It's having that personal touch. It's doing the consultations. It's having good social content, good blog content to continue to show people the value that you're bringing to them, whether you're a service-based business and you're providing it, right? Because for us, it's thinking about all of these things, but what is the added value I bring? Because in today's world, there's always the new shiny object. There's always the new product, the new interesting thing. And if you don't have that brand loyalty, it's expensive to get a new customer in the door, whether you're a product or service-based business. So when you have them, you really want to maintain that relationship with them and build trust. Again, it goes back to like build a trusting relationship. Do you have good quality products? Did they provide the effect, or did they get the service that they wanted out of the product? Are you reliable? Are you consistent? Do you add extra value to them? So when the new product comes flashing in front of them, they have no question but to just stay with who they already are with, because it's easier to stay with who you're with than it is to make a change. So those are some of the things that we think about. And building brand loyalty in cannabis, I think, is so important because, again, I mean, every time you turn around, there's new people entering the industry for good or bad reasons. There's new products. There's people just trying to that have more bigger pockets, right? That can get more ad space, that can do some of the interesting things, that can pay for advertisements in magazines and stuff. So for smaller brands, your brand loyalty, your brand is really everything to help you grow. And for us specifically, it's been really important. We have a really high return rate of customers, and I think it's going the extra mile, but it's also thinking in the mindset of your consumer. For example, building Element Apothec, for me, having me loyal to a brand means that I trust the brand, that they believe in some of the same things I do, that they care, right? And so building Element Apothec, I wanted to show, we care. We do 1% for the planet. We work with the Veterans Compassion Program. We became a B Corp. So people can trust, like, wow, this company cares. My money that I spend here is also going to help other people. Those things also build brand loyalty when someone feels good about how they're spending their money, and that you're not just taking it for your own profit, but you're also trying to make a difference in what you do. So it's a whole circle of, you know, making brand loyalty important, but then what does it take to actually make that happen?
The manufacturer who just are resells to the reseller, or do you guys sell to the end user?
We do it all. We work with a co-packer, but it's all our formulations. So we work with someone who takes our formulations and just puts them basically in a package. So we do everything from the research and development to the specific formulation that we're using. We just give them the directions of, like, you make this in large scale, because we don't have 20,000 square foot manufacturing facility. And then we do everything from getting the product, providing it to the end user, whether that's a retailer, an online channel, or direct to consumer. So we manage the entire process, even from ingredient sourcing. So we're very specific on the ingredients that we use, all the way through the finished product.
Okay. And so when you guys are working with a retailer, do you do things like pop-up shops, or do you go into the actual dispensary and talk to the employees, or even talk to the consumers and help them understand what they're buying?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's really important to have those touch points. We make our course accessible to any retailer or dispensary that works with us, because we think if they have the education, whether it's our products or someone else's products, it brings a level of knowledge and sophistication to that retailer or that dispensary. We've done pop ups, we've done sampling. Anytime that you have an opportunity to get in front of the consumer, for us, it's extremely valuable. Anytime that you have an opportunity to speak to a sales associate or bud tender, or anybody in a retail or dispensary, you're building a relationship with them. And if a consumer is coming in, who are they going to recommend or trust? It's the people
Mhm.
that have also added value. So again, it's like building these trustworthy, valuable relationships, whether it's a retail partner, whether it's your employee, whether it's anybody, these relationships become so important, whether it's with the consumer too, that, here you are, I can ask you any questions, I can learn. And for us too, it's, when we don't know, we don't know. We're open and communicating that. When maybe there's a different product that might not be our product, we also recommend that as well. And, those are the things that help build this trustworthiness with people, whether, so if you're in a retailer or dispensary, they feel like, okay, they're authentic, right? They're not just trying to push their product because they believe it's the best. They really care about giving value to the consumer at the end of the day.
That's absolutely amazing. I know anytime a business recommends a competitor's product that I can trust them.
Right?
I know there's some insurance companies that do that. They're like, hey, we're not the best for you, but maybe try this other one. I'm like, "Really?" That's yeah, that's a really effective way to build trust. Okay, so what advice would you give any entrepreneurs who are looking to enter the cannabis industry? Because I know a lot of people are thinking about, hey, I want to start a brand. Right now the market to just start brands because nobody is kind of the winner yet. So what advice would you give?
I think just do your research, like do a lot of research, and be really well prepared in terms of the path you want to go. If you're starting a business, making sure that you have the financial funds to do it too. Oftentimes, if you're venturing into entrepreneurship, I recommend, and I did this. I continued to consult while I initially started to have the financial ability to manage things because it takes a lot longer than you expect for business to grow. I mean, some people get fortunate and stuff happens, but for the most part, it's going to take longer. It's going to take more money. And so really planning out, what is your business strategy? What are your business goals? Who's going to be there to help support you? Build that support system early, not just friends and family, but mentors and advisors that can help you with what you're trying to accomplish. And don't ever be afraid to ask. It's People are always, as I mentioned earlier, they're like, "Oh, how'd you work with that person?" I'm like, "I just asked them and they said yes." Like maybe they might have said no, but they said yes. And so having that support system is really important. People that have been there, that have done that, that can help guide you so you're not making mistakes that they've made, that you can learn from other people. And then yeah, the financial support is really important because you don't want to be moving into something and so stressed and have to give up too early because you didn't plan out financially what you needed.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And so, what are some, I know you have to plan, and I'm pretty sure you have your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plans for your industry. What are some of the trends that you think are shaping the future of where Element Apothec is going to go and how what are you guys are going to grow into?
Yeah, I mean, for Element Apothec, it's really, leaning into wellness, which has always been so important from the very beginning. But really, how do we help people thrive? And I think people are taking so much more time to think about their health and their wellness and looking at alternative remedies. So for us, it's really leaning into how can we provide more education, but that's in the right way that people want it, right? Like people want short clip videos and things like that. They don't want to read long blog posts and stuff. But also the industry is shaping in that there are more practitioners that are really starting to believe in the benefits of hemp and cannabis. And so for us, how do we form more relationships? How do we get in front of more practitioners? And I think that that's across the board for the whole industry. You start to see pharmacists that are getting dispensary licenses and there's more doctors that are recommending to their patients to look at cannabis. I see that even with my mom. Her doctors are always against it, and now they're like, okay, just keep doing what your daughter tells you. And now there's that was 3 4 years ago, and now they're starting to ask more questions. So I think the industry is really shaping to be interesting in terms of the involvement of these exterior groups that at some point were maybe against cannabis and against plant-based wellness are starting to really think about how it can also help people. So those are the things that we're thinking about in terms of the shift of the industry. Obviously, watching the regulations. Here in California, we have the farm bill that's going through some potential changes. Obviously, the idea of
Mhm.
descheduling, or what does that mean, or not descheduling but rescheduling, and what impact does that also have? What does it mean if it's rescheduled to 3? What impacts does it have on the industry, on the products that we have, or products that we wanted to launch? So yeah, there's a lot to think about in terms of where we're going and what's influencing it. But it's, at the end of the day, the fact that people are caring more and more about their health and their well-being, is something that we're thinking about. And how do we create products that are aligned with the goals that people have in terms of their health, their wellness, their skincare, their mind, their sleep, all of these things.
I know that you guys are in cannabis, but there's other plant medicines that have um, started to be decriminalized in some cities in California, Oregon, Colorado. Are you guys also exploring using other plant medicines as well?
Yeah, I mean, we do use a lot of other plant-based ingredients. So all of our products now use cannabinoids, but we look at, if it's for sleep, for example, or for discomfort, what other ingredients can aid in making something as valuable as they can. We're actually launching a mushroom CBD coffee next month, as well. And
Okay.
so, yeah, we're super excited. We've been sampling it for about 2 months now, and we've gotten great reviews. So those are the types of things that we're exploring, are what are other plant-based ingredients and plant-based medicines, and not to put anything out, but also managing what are the regulations, what does this look like, is this an area that we feel like we can grow, is the risk right now worth it, or is it better to wait until maybe there's some changes in a broader market? So we're always on the lookout of other plant-based ingredients, plant-based medicines, and remedies that we can look. We're looking at launching capsules and gel caps and stuff like that too. So soft gels. So always thinking about what else could we include, or bring to the market that would add value from plant-based medicine perspective.
Okay. And so with that, there are a lot of misconceptions. Like a lot of people are, we have 50 years war on drugs. They think it's the devil's lettuce, all this stuff, psychedelics, mushroom psychedelics, cannabis, marijuana, all that stuff. There's all these misconceptions. What are some of the common misconceptions about the industry that you are seeing, and how do you as a business address those to help get your product in front of more people to help overcome some of those objections?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still all of the stigmas that exist that have been there, um, from prohibition, unfortunately. And like I said, going through all
Yeah.
the the dare generation, and seeing that. I mean, I still get messages every now and then on LinkedIn or Instagram from people that I haven't connected with in a long time, and they're like, "I can't believe you're in the cannabis industry." I'm like, "You like someone like you?" I'm like, "Someone like me, I've been around cannabis my entire life." So I still think that there's so much fear. And I was just talking to someone the other day. It's a generational at this point, right? We've been ingrained to say that this is bad. And there's fear around that. And so breaking these stigmas isn't just a matter of, it's just just change your mind. It's like we really have to go out of our way to educate people, to have conversations like this, to say, hey, we're professionals talking about cannabis. There's no fear. That doesn't mean we're stoners. Like, it doesn't mean we're all of these things that people thought, because someone like me could be in the cannabis space. Someone like you could be in the cannabis space, right? And I think those are the things that we have to continue to push forward through and advocate through our voices, through just showing people that we're not like any different than they are, right? In terms of the
Mhm.
is, I do think showing more research is also important. There's some people that will only believe what it is that the studies show them. So, I know for us, we're out looking for investment money, and some of that money is to start to do clinical studies and research to validate for those people that are the naysayers, to say, hey, look there's really validity to the things that people are saying and their experiences. They're not just making it up. It's not just snake oil. All of these things are
Yeah.
important. And then, I mean, for all companies and people to lean into the idea of educating people. And, I love telling people that they have an endocannabinoid system when they are like, I don't do this. They walk by our booths and they're like, "Oh, you're in cannabis." I'm like, "Well, by the way, did you know that you have this amazing endocannabinoid system and, we have receptors?" And then, I mean, they pause, right? And they're like, "What? And you produce cannabinoids on demand and, these are the chemicals that, and then they take a listen and they're interested. So the more that we can normalize it and help people understand their bodies and that, cannabinoids are just an addition to the incredible system that we've already built, then, it's the work that we all have to continue doing.
Awesome. And you mentioned that you guys are looking for some investment money. And you also mentioned earlier that, to scale, you need to make sure that you're using that money wisely and effectively. So, like within the cannabis industry, it's hard. It's even harder now today to get those funds. So, what strategies are you guys are using in order to raise this capital? And then I guess help us understand how you plan to deploy that capital.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is challenging, and there was, early investors that went crazy to get into the industry, and unfortunately, a lot of that money went to companies that didn't have their goals planned out, that didn't know how they were going to spend that money, and that's impacted
Mhm.
everybody since then. There's also fears of, the regulations and what's gonna happen, so investors outside of this space are cautious to get in because of that. But what we've done is really, again, tried to shift it in terms of we're a wellness brand. And yes, these are the ingredients that we're using, and these are why we're using these ingredients. These are the benefits that people get. And trying to help people have the bigger vision. A lot of it is education also with investors and taking time to have these conversations. It's a lot longer process than I've seen with other industries to often get people there. There's a lot of people taking advantage of people in the industry and charging
Mhm.
exorbitant rates on debt equity and stuff like that, which is putting people further behind. So for us, the strategies are like being really mindful of the people that we speak to, making sure that the investors that we're talking to are people that can add value to the business, maybe some other experience. Looking at family offices and angels and
Mhm.
outside of the traditional VC space, because there are a lot of people that have a family member or someone that they have known that has used cannabis that has had an impact. And those are the people that we feel like could be good investors, angel investors, family offices, things like that. So yeah, those are some of the strategies that we've used, and again, asking for conversations and pushing, but really trying to show the value of the business. And then in terms of deployment of the capital when we get it, early on when you start to raise, thinking about what your use of funds are and building out your projections. So we've gone through all of that process to say we know what we need to do to scale, and if we want to get here, these are the places that we're going to need to manage the money, investing so much in marketing, investing so much in headcount, investing so much in new product development, education, things like that, clinical studies. So we feel really confident when we get the money. It's taken way longer than I thought. Little by little, certain amounts
Yeah.
trickle in, but we feel the conversations are elevating. I feel like investors are starting to understand the value of cannabis and cannabinoids and products. And if they're not for you, they're not for you. That's the other thing, is like not spending time on this investor. I want to have them, but if they say no, keep them updated.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll change their mind, but there will be other people. At least that's my hope, that there will be other people that will continue to have an interest and want to put their capital into the space.
Awesome. Okay. And this is where we'll be wrapping this up now. This is kind of like my last question. But looking ahead, so what are your key goals for growth and innovation in the cannabis industry? Where do you see Element Apothec? Are you guys going to be across the country? Are you already in talks with maybe partnerships with other operators in other cities? And what is the future for you?
Yeah, we're fortunate because of also have being on the hemp side that we have been, able to be across all 50 states, although
Oh,
there are some
nice.
states that are considering, thinking about certain ingredients like CBN or hemp in general. I just heard from one state. So that we're being mindful of that. We do want to see and look and explore international growth. We're working with a resort in Thailand. We're going to be probably launching our products in Japan, and looking at some of the European Union countries. That's important. Our goal at the end of the day is to make my aunt's dream come true, and that's for our products to go from her kitchen to the world. And so that's a big
Um,
goal, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. And really the reason behind that is just that we could really help so many more people. And even if it's just a little bit, like I always tell people, our products may not be magic for you, but if you sleep a little bit better, if your body is a little less achy, if you're a little less stressed, if your skin feels a little better, that little better makes a
yeah.
significant difference in the quality of people's lives. So through that, though, we hope to, launch other products like the mushroom coffee that we're launching, other form factors, and continuing with education, to be able to help people understand the benefits of plant-based medicine for the quality of their life.
So yeah, I'm hearing so much about the um I'm glad you guys are going into coffee because I'm hearing so much about the beverage industry. Are you guys thinking about other beverages besides coffee?
Yeah, we are exploring because it is an
Yeah,
interesting space. And you think about, would I rather drink something like this mushroom CBD coffee or take another, because it's focused on gut health,
yeah.
or take another gut health capsule or another thing. So thinking about how
Mhm.
do we fit our products into the daily lives of consumers is something that we're interested in, making it easy and accessible. And beverages definitely is an easy, accessible way for people to get in the plant-based ingredients and remedies and medicines that they need. So it's something we're definitely exploring, and hopefully there'll be more coming in the horizon around that.
Okay, awesome. And Gerald is saying he's got his foil hat on today, but he's saying cannabis was made illegal because too many other industries would have lost a lot of money. Hemp cannabis are truly multi-purpose plants that we're still finding use for today. Yeah, and he's just very passionate about this. So
Yeah.
we have the right group here today.
It's so true. It's really
Awesome.
unfortunate when you look at what prohibition was, and, people wanting to have forest for paper instead of using hemp plants, and the pharmaceuticals,
Yeah.
all of the industries that really were against it, only not for the benefit of the people, but for the benefit of their pockets. From politicians, and racism and all of these things that benefited them. And so that's one of the reasons I'm just so passionate about this space and love it so much, is we have an opportunity to change that, to really utilize this plant in all of its good. I mean, there's a YouTube video, I think it's called like Hemp for Victory, and it talks about the U.S. sailing military, and how they use their boats were made from like hemp fibers for the ropes. The material was hemp for the flags, like all of these things. And you're like, wow, they did see the value early, and then money got in the way and politicians. And now we're back to, how do we best utilize everything about this plant, from the internal medicine to the external environmental value that it brings. So definitely exciting times for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Let me know where they can find your product. You said you're in all 50 states?
Yeah, so we're mostly direct to consumer right now. So you can go on our website to elementapothec.com. And also, we are starting to get more retail development. So hopefully we'll get more retailers where people can go in and actually purchase the products. But for now, yeah, we can ship to all 50 states with our products. We also offer our one-on-one consultations if anybody wants to come on. You can scroll through down the website about two-thirds of the way down and schedule a call with one of our integrative pharmacists, Dr. Chloe. So yeah, that's how you can find us. And me personally, if you have any questions or anything that I talked about, or um, anything at all, then I'm really active on LinkedIn. So you can always reach out on LinkedIn and find me too.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I'll be looking for that coffee when it
Yes.
comes out.
I'll have to send you some for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. All right, you have a good rest of your day.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right, bye everyone.